Today I'm here to teach you about command words. And command words are necessary when you're answering questions. So most people ask me, how do you know when you're answering? How to answer is determined by how the question is phrased. Now, for instance, there are some keywords that you have to look for when you are answering questions. So keywords like how, when, what, right? There are even deeper keywords. For instance, if you are talking about biology or chemistry, but mainly biology and chemistry, though that's a thrust that I'm going to be going at for now. So let's talk about biology. In biology, there's some keywords that they give you when they asking you to answer a question. So keywords like define, right? What are you supposed to do when you're told to define? So define, which is a verb for the word or the noun definition. So for instance, if they tell you to define digestion, they're just saying, give us the definition of digestion, which is the breakdown of food molecules into smaller particles that are absorbable by the body, right? So that is the definition. And usually they carry 1 mark, 2 marks, depending on how layered the question is. Something similar to define is usually, what do you understand by the term? So if they say, what do you understand by the term diffusion? Or now let's go back to digestion. So if they say, what do you understand by the term digestion? They're now asking you to give us a definition and then give us a brief, and I mean brief, explanation of what diffusion, did I say diffusion? Or digestion is. So for instance, if we're going to say digestion is a breakdown of food molecules or food into smaller absorbable molecules by the body. I don't know if I say that, but anyway. So for instance, if they say, what do you understand by the term diffusion? You're going to say diffusion is the movement of molecules from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. And as an explanation, I would then say, for instance, if I was to spray cologne in one corner, I can smell it on the other corner because of diffusion. That's not how I would explain it, but you get the point. And then we have the keyword state. So when they say state, they're just telling you to give a very brief answer. So for instance, a word or even a short phrase. So for instance, if they say state the food that is digested in the mouth, you can say, or the nutrient that is digested in the mouth, you can say starch. Starch is digested in the mouth because starch is what is digested in the mouth. You can state that. That is, you have stated it. Is a very short phrase. So usually these carry about 1 mark. When you're told to state. You can even be told to state multiple things, and usually they use the phrase list. So when they say list, you're going to probably have to list. So say list some of the nutrients we find in food or in eggs, or let me use something else, beans. You can say starch, you can say we can find protein because there's a lot of protein in there. So I have listed. Okay, now we move on to some of the tougher ones, which they're not really tough, but most people confuse them together, which is describe and explain. So I'm going to first start with describe. So when you're told to describe something, that is just probably stating what the process is, or steps to a process, or you are stating or telling us about what it looks like, the appearance of something. So for instance, if they say describe what happens during photosynthesis, right? You may not necessarily be able to see it, so I can describe the appearance of it, but I can describe the steps. So water is absorbed in the roots, goes to the leaves, and then the leaves take in air, which is in the form of carbon dioxide, and the sun catalyzes the reaction in presence of chlorophyll, or chlorophyll traps the sunlight in order to catalyze that reaction. I just described what happens. I'm not explaining what happens. Now, the explanation, which is now when they tell you to explain, now you're explaining Why water? Because water and carbon dioxide, if you combine them in a special reaction, they can give you carbohydrate. So that is why this is happening. That's why the plant needs water. That's why the plant needs air. And for this reaction to happen, we need sunlight. So that is why that happens. So that is, in essence, I hope you understand, an explanation. So when you give an explanation, you're not giving you're not given just a steps process. So when most people, and I used to do this when I was even in geo, when I'd learn geo, when I was still doing my O level, I would when they tell us to describe this rock, describe the image that you're seeing. I start to explain, oh, this rock has cracks in it because of weathering and other things. So which is not what they're asking. So I would then be surprised when I'm getting 2 marks when I wrote half a page and almost cost my whole test on time and other things. So this is what happens when you do not understand. But anyway, that's why I'm here to explain to you descriptions and explanations. So describe, tell us the steps, tell us the appearance. So if they say describe a flower, it has petals, it has sepal, it has anthers, filaments, and all sorts. But now when you're explaining a process, you're now explaining why that happens. So probably maybe touch on how, not necessarily how, but pretty much the why. You almost like explain yourself. Why did you steal? You have to explain yourself. You're not walking us through. You're not describing what you did. You are walking us through why you did it. And then we move on to a statement called outline. So when they say outline, it's close to describe, but it's not describe. It's mainly just telling us the main points. Because describe, remember, it's outlining the steps. I then use outline. It's almost laying out the steps of a process. So, but outlining is mainly just now writing the key points, the important areas of the question, of the answer, whatever answer they're asking or whatever they're requiring of you. So whatever process or they're questioning, and they say outline functions of water in the body, right? So you now have to go, okay, this is lubrication. You need to talk about it acts as a solvent. So these are just the key points. So I'm not necessarily describing anything. I'm just outlining points to answer a question. So yeah, if you have any question, please outline your questions in the comments. State and list your questions so that I can come here and probably give an explanation. Damn, it feels good to be a guest. Okay, so when they say predict, now predict is pretty much just saying, so for instance, if they say we put a flower in the sun, or no, we put a plant in the sun and we put another plant in a cupboard for 3 days, and then we tested both for the presence of starch. Predict what you think we found. So you do not know what they found, but you can predict based off your background knowledge of, okay, usually when this happens, they're testing for this, and this one did not photosynthesize, so I'm going to predict that the cupboard one did not have starch in it, and the light exposed one had some light, and not light, it had some not chlorophyll, it had some starch. And then now when they say calculate, I think you know what this means. But for the person who I'm truly concerned for, who doesn't know what it means, calculate is just meaning you need to come up with figures. It's numbers, it's maths. So even if it's in bio or chemistry and they say calculate, you need to make sure you're coming out with a figure at the end. You don't come out with a therefore, I think, no, or explain or describe or state or list. It's calculate. You have to. So if you hate maths, already this is not your cup of tea. Measure. When they say measure now, it's also something that I feel like I shouldn't be explaining, but I don't judge. If you're told to measure, you need to take out whatever you need use to measure. So whatever tools you are using, whether a ruler, most of the time it's a ruler, But so whether you're measuring the area, the volume, whether you're measuring the mass, it's just measuring. So yeah.